Okay, what's up, y'all? In this episode right here, I'm going to show you how to make this Tearout loop, and it sounds like this.
Now stand back, I gotta practice my stabbing.
And as you can see here, it's got a lot of different parts to it. So for this tutorial, I think I'm going to split it into two. And in this one, I will just show how to make the main bass that sounds like this. So what this sound is made up of here is three different noises, three different layers, and then a reverb bus. And so I will solo those out. So we have the noise layer that sounds like this. We have the tonal layer that sounds like this. And then we have the sub layer that sounds like this. And really in this sound, the FX, the processing, the post-processing is what makes this sound. So if I go in here and turn off all of my, I'll turn the verb off. Turn off all of my processing here, the sound is just way worse. So like this is the sound without any post-processing, and I'll show you how to do that too. So like you're not just like, oh, you didn't show the good part. So this is what it sounds like dry. So as I said, it's really the whole sound of this one is in the processing. So let's go ahead and jump into our first layer. So the first layer is, oh, but before I start that, let me just show. I used, instead of, so one of the tricks to, like, if you're trying to work fast and you're making something with a lot of layers, you can use this layering tool. And this is an FL plugin. So if you hit show children here, it shows when one note plays in the layer, it triggers a note in the MIDI out, the noise serum, the tone serum, and the sub. So if you want to set this to like just do, you know, a couple different things, you go into your layer, have it open, set the children. And now whenever the layer gets triggered, it will play anything that it's set to play, as you can see. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into our first serum patch here. And it sounds like this. So I've went in here and I bypassed all of my LFO destinations. And so this sound is probably garbage without anything. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I think with this quiet of a sound, most likely the first thing that I did, and this is a good trick that you can do whenever you're like sound designing, I think it's kind of intuitive to start making the sound, then process it. But by starting with effects first, like a super heavy compression or whatever, before you design the sound, you can get more interesting results. So that's a quick little tip to give you. So oscillator A on this one is set to harmonic morph, which is in the digital right here. So I've turned the randomness all the way down, so the phase always starts right there every time. Wavetable positions all the way down, levels all the way down. So what this one acts as is just an FM source for oscillator B. And then I'll go ahead and move it to B. Oh, and by the way, both of these are pitched down 3 octaves. So this one is set to the cream wavetable. It is right here. Wavetable position all the way to the left, randomness again all the way down. And then the FM is set from A, and I will go ahead and activate this and this. And so what this LFO2 does is acts as a little pitch drop on the octave here. And if I turn the note up and the octave up, as you can hear, it's like not a clean sweep down. It kind of catches on any, you know, what's it called? It quantizes to the octave, obviously, because it's an octave knob. And so when you do that in FMing and in making other kinds of sounds, you can get this really unique character that just pitch sweeping it down doesn't do. So if you look at the LFO here, the envelope is set to on, which means it just triggers every time and stays at the bottom point. The anchor is turned on, even though that's not really necessary. The BPM sync is off and it's set to about 5 hertz. Then I have this LFO routing to the octave thingamajig and also the FM amount. So it just kind of acts as a little attack there for the FM. Okay, so let's move into the filtering now. So our filter is set to band notch. I'll activate the LFO for that. And what it's doing is basically LFO3 has a separate rate here, like it's set to 3.3 hertz. And the reason that I use the hertz instead of the BPM is because then you can get like more granular. Like if I set this one shape here, I can fine tune how the length of time that it has to go a lot more precisely. So with the mix all the way up, which it's not, it's set to 30 normally, but with the mix all the way up, you can kind of see that this is just like sweeping the bands and giving it that little gunny type sound. So the cutoffs, I think, all the way down. A lot of automation on that. Drive's pretty high up. Resonance is 25%. So as you can see, just kind of giving it that little gunny type sound. Okay, so moving into the effects now. As you can hear, we have a pretty stable, not noisy sound. And then when I turn the delay on, you get a bunch of noise. And you might be saying, how does that happen? Well, typically when I use delays, I'm doing one of two things, right? I either have the delay time really short and the feedback time high, which makes it sound metallic for like rhythm and stuff, or whatever you want to sound metallic. And then the other way is I'll have a longer, usually BPM sync delay time, and it adds that echo that's good for more melodic stuff. In this one, I know if you're watching YouTube tutorials, you definitely got recommended that AU5 Chaos modulation tutorial. So I basically took his trick there and tweaked it. So if you go into the matrix here, you can see I have my Chaos 1 and Chaos 2 set to the delay left and delay right time, and then one's going down by -4 and one's going up by 3, and then also I have the rates both turned way high. So basically what you're getting is the sound happens, it goes into the delay, and then also over the span of the length of the sound, which like it's a little short kind of, you know, gunny sound, but as it's playing, a delay is happening that's being like shifted all around, so it makes that shaky, noisy type sound. And I don't really know what else to say about that other than like that's how you do it. So a little tweak on AU5's thing, but I thought it turned out good. And also, like, as a side note, like when you're watching tutorials, I think that's the best way to utilize them is like, don't go in and make, I mean, unless you're really beginner at it, don't go in and say like, how can I make this exact sound? It's kind of like go in and pick up the pieces that you can use in your own sounds and yeah, make something cool, innovate on it. If you're watching a tutorial, take it and make something new out of it. Okay, and then from there, going into the compressor, as you can see, I just kind of turn the threshold up and turn the release further down, which kills the tails. I'll show it here with shorter time. You see how that kind of rings out more? You know I love killing those tails. That's what it does. So from there, we'll move into the post effects, and as you can see, I have a kilohertz convolver. All this is, it's set to this dark contrast verb. I just basically did a really short little segment of it, faded it out, and then as you can see with the mix all the way up, it just puts it in like a little bit of a space. Oh, and I turned the tone all the way up to give it brightness. It almost makes it sound like a spray can, which is just a way to kind of blend the sound together. It's probably not that necessary in the grand scheme of things. Then with the OTT, this is doing the brunt of the work. Just bringing the volume up a lot. I have the depth at 50, time at 1000. Out gain is significantly down to gain stage it, which if you don't know, gain staging is just a way to keep your sound. If you keep making it louder and louder and louder, almost every plugin has a knob where you can turn the out gain out at the end. That way you don't end up just making your sounds all way too loud, because it also affects the processing. Like, you know, it'll clip out in some plugins. So, and with the bands here, I've just kind of adjusted them a little bit. It looks like the high threshold is turned up quite a bit, mid threshold is all the way up, and the low threshold is also turned up, but just a little bit. So yeah, that's just giving it some volume. Then we have a wave shaper here to distort it, which is adding a lot more volume to it, and the mix is all the way up on this. So this is a pretty simple curve here, so I'll just kind of let you look at that. It kind of looks like it's just distorting it. Then the EQ here is doing quite a bit. This band is not necessary. So I have the low cut, getting rid of that low thump, and then this high cut is getting rid of that like super crispy top end, which I probably did that after making the other parts just to kind of make the sound fit with the other ones. So okay, and then before I leave this EQ real quick, I also cut the output volume by like 8 decibels, so quite a bit of gain staging done there. So now going into my next layer, you have the tonal layer, and it sounds without anything turned on like that. Okay, so what we have is oscillator A here is set to prime, which is right here. The octave is turned down 2 octaves, randomness again off, so it starts at the same place every time. And then the unison is turned way up, so it's all the way maxed out, but then the detune is so far down that it's kind of just boosting the gain. So then I'll go in here and start turning on my other things. Oh, and then the FM is on in the wavetable position, as you can see, all the way to the right. The randomness is all the way down. I don't know if I said that already, but I'll say it again. So then going in here and I can go ahead and turn that on. And then we're FMing, just to get this part over with, we're FMing from B, and this is just the initialized wavetable that Serum starts with, the saw. And it's just set to octave 0, level all the way down. Randomness on this one, so that I probably did on accident, but we'll leave it. So then you have your FM is getting modulated by the same amp modulator right here, LFO1. And then what else do we have? This LFO2 is kind of just like plucking the wavetable position. And then with the comb, I forgot to turn the comb off. That's without the comb. Then with the comb, you basically have mix all the way up. 72 is where our cutoff's at. Resonance at 70, panned a little bit to the right, drive at 50, mix all the way up, like I said. So yeah, so that's kind of the bare bones of this sound without all the modulations turned on. And so let me start by turning the reverb on, and it's also kind of being like gated and modulated by LFO1. You can kind of look at that and get your set how you want to set it. Then we have filter 2 here is being modulated. I'm gonna go ahead and just turn all these on, activate everything, because everything's gonna probably be used now. And so LFO3 comes into play here, and as you can see, they're all set to an 1/8 rate, and the BPM sync is on, and the envelope is on for all 3 of these. So you probably need to know that. I didn't mean to skip that earlier. So LFO3 has quite a different curve from these. And if I turn it all the way up, it's set to low notch, 12, and it's kind of just plucking it, as you can hear. And so you have your low band is plucking from this one, from the LFO3, and the notch is kind of getting flicked upwards. I don't know the best word for that, but flicked upwards by LFO2. So low resonance, moderate drive, moving it on. Okay, so then in the EQ here, we have a high pass that's once again just popping that rubber band type sound. So the Q, which is the resonance, is getting modulated by LFO1, and also the gain, we have a high shelf that's turning the highs up, which kind of helps this band modulation come through even more. So we'll run that back, and then you can kind of just copy the OTT settings right here. I'm not going to go through and find out what I did to that. So moving into the processing here, which is where the bulk of this sound comes from too, I have a snap heap here. This is without it, and then we have with it. And as you can see, it makes the sound quite a bit more metallic. So we have, I'll turn all of these off and kind of solo through it real quick, and then I'll just turn that whole band off. Okay. So as far as the setup goes, first things first, the buses are set up where bus 1 is serial, bus 2 is serial, and then buses 3 and 4 are parallel. And what that means is, as far as the signal goes, you have your input right here, and I'll just kind of run the mouse down. So it goes through here and then comes back up to the top, and then goes through here and then comes back up to the top, right? So your sound is going through serial bus, then at parallel bus, it goes down and splits. We have one here, and it goes through these separately, right? So the signal gets split into 2 different sound sources, so it's basically doubling the volume, but then I have different effects on each of these buses. One is just a dry and the other one is a wet. So going through this one piece at a time, we have a frequency shifter that's turned down a little bit to 52.5 hertz. And then by adding this little tone knob here, I have basically like a little automation that I can change here in the playlist where which is what gives it that, like, I don't know if it kind of sounds like Beutnoise to me. It kind of sounds like a little bongo playing. But basically what it is these are the same notes here in both sections. It's just that little modulation happening on the tone of this particular frequency shifter is a good way to like quickly be able to change your sound and get that like, A, B section type feel to it. So also just to note, it's only changing it 3%. So it's just this smallest little bit of modulation that's happening to do that. So then we have a resonator, makes it more metallic. Comb filter with the stereo on, also making it way more metallic. And then we have a disperser that's cloned, so these are identical here. So that's kind of giving it a little bit more gunniness. So as far as the serial buses go, like this legitimately could just be this. I don't even have to have all these, but that's basically what's happening there. But it's nice to be able to see them at the same time. So then we have our signal splitting. So what we'll do is I will turn this one on and this one off. So this bus here is basically when it's on, it's just a dry section. So then we have a wet section that sounds like this soloed out. And all it is just kind of like a little room, a little space. So I have this set into the Future Creek glitch. I've selected this small little section of it, and I kind of scanned through there to find a section that sounded good. Faded it out. Turned my 3-band EQ on, killed the highs, boosted the mids, and killed the lows. And then I have a compressor on it that's also killing the tails. You know how I like to kill those tails, man. So all together with the snap heap, sounds like that. Moving it on, we have a EQ. This is super important, I feel like, because like when I was making this sound, I put this on at the very early stages of designing it. Or no, once I had the snap heap in, I put this on, and it kills not only the lows, but also like a significant amount of the metallic little plucky part, which like right here alone, it sounds fine if you leave it off. But in the context of the full sound and the mix, it was super necessary to cut that, and not only cut it, but also bring the volume down a little bit on the plucky part. So little boost here, not too much crazy stuff. And then this compressor is really kind of just making the sound more uniform and loud. And a little bit more plucky, more attack to it. So that's really all there is for this one's post-processing. Okay, so moving it on forward. So we have our processing taken care of for both of these. Then we have this little verb room again. So what I have here is basically the way, let me show the routing on these first. So here I have the noise and tone both routed into the mix bus right here, and this verb, right? And what this verb is just yet another little room. I did it with just the smallest little, oh, this is such a good reverb, by the way. It's a free, at least at the time I got it, it was free Native Instruments reverb. So I have the wetness all the way up, a little bit of pre-delay. The lows are getting cut quite a bit. The highs are getting cut just a little. Heavy modulation, a little bit higher than normal dampening. And then a small room, no diffusion, shortest decay. Bam, just ran through that real quick. And that's what the reverb alone sounds like. And also it is being low cut, not that much though, again. So, oh, and also the verb is not getting routed into the mix. The verb is getting routed into the master. It's not even getting sidechained. It's skipping the sidechain. Okay, and so I'll show the mix first. And the both these sounds together dry sound like this. That's the noise and the tone playing. So I have a Saturn distorting them a little bit with a super high boost to the low band, which just kind of gives it a clickiness that's not probably that necessary because I cut it later, but then also a little bit of a treble boost. The drive's almost unchanged. Oh no, it's just up a little bit. I'm sorry, I thought it started at 20%. Yeah, and then the EQ here, boosting the highs a little bit, boosting the mid highs. That same band of treble that I boosted in the Saturn is getting boosted, and then a little bit more to the highs. So just makes it sound a lot more crisp. And then we have an OTT here, depth all the way up, time up significantly. And I'll show with the lower time. Hear how that ring happens? Kill it with the time knob. You got to add some time to that bad boy. Okay, and then the out gain is pulled down a little bit. The highs are getting boosted the most. The mids are getting boosted a little bit, and the lows are actually getting cut back with this OTT. So depth at 100%. And then to finish this one off, we have a V clip, which is kind of, it's almost hard clipping it. So just kind of, if you have any hard clipper, that'll work. But V clip is really good. They don't pay me to say that. I just say that because it's fire. And then next we'll do the reverb. So that's the signal without the room. Pretty nice, pretty clean. Add this little reverb send. Just giving it a little bit of space to be in. Let's keep it moving into the sub now. And so our sub patch is most likely going to be super simple. We have this LFO that's modulating the basic shape square, pitch down 3 octaves, low pass filter on MG12. And it's just kind of it's decaying the attack a little bit. And also I have this master tuning. I've gone over this so many times. I'm just going to show you it and say that it does the pitch drop. And then we have a compressor on it that's stomping the mids way down, and then letting the highs and the lows stay the same, and also quite a gain boost on this. And then the threshold is changed just down a little bit. So then moving into the effects here, so we kill all those highs, and then I go in and I think I just V clipped it twice. Yeah. So that clipper is just adding a little bit of distortion to it. This clipper is doing nothing. So we'll just go ahead and get rid of that. And so finally, with all of that being shown, we have our full sound. Now let's go into the sound design on this, or not the sound design. Let's go into the arrangement on this and the structure. So what we have here, okay, so showing the arrangement here, I have the drums turned back on, and this kind of illustrates what's going on. So we have basically a couple different patterns right here. We have, let me go ahead and clone this. And what we have going on here is a pattern that plays that is this pattern, and it plays again, but minus the first hit, minus the first hit, minus the first hit, and adding a final hit in there, right? So it goes like da 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 da, right? Okay, well, I was close. I give it A for effort, B for execution there. And then the switch here, I have a little stutter that happens at all of the ones, or it happens right before all of the ones. So as you can see, right, this one right here, that's the one, happens before the ones and before the threes. And once again, once this second set of different notes goes on, the tone knob switches. And then we go in, and I think we just repeat this. And then the cool thing here is this note works at different frequencies, because sometimes you'll make a bass and take so long designing it that you're like, it only sounds good in F, or it only sounds good at this one note. And one of the things that I think makes that happen is if you EQ something too heavily, or like the EQ is such a function of the sound that then when you like change where the patch is playing, your EQ bands are misaligned. with like where the frequencies are in the sound. Sometimes it sounds good, sometimes it doesn't. A way to fix that though, just a quick tip, is like if you have something that it only sounds good in one note, just render it as that note and then you can play it in any pitch that you want. So once again, this, as you can see, all the notes are in the same location, but I just changed the pitch on it so it kind of gives it that little funky feel. And then I brought in one of these stutters here. And then lastly, our drums were playing this whole time, and in this one I cut out the second little shaker there, and no kick and snare here. So we have kind of like that fake drop type deal where the switch happens, the notes get all jumbled up, and it gives it that kind of chaotic feel. And then where the snare would be here, it adds a lot of tension because what I'm doing is repeating this note at a similar interval. So I believe what it was a half step. So these notes play, and you can't see it here, but you combine these two little blocks, and that's one of the half steps here. So when I get to this note, that once again, I use the same flow that we have right here. So we have in the normal flow, it goes 1, 2, 3, and I took the spacing from these two notes and repeated them over. And let me show you a real quick good tip way to do this. So one way that if you're like trying to equal space something, but it's like a weird, maybe it's synced to none, or there's not like an equal spacing, here's the best way to do this. Quick and good tip. I love this tip right here because when I figured this out recently, and ever since I've been using it a lot. So what you do is you duplicate the notes, take it, and you have your first note and second note, and let's say all these notes aren't here. But I want to have it be that same pattern. Then what I'll do is go in and move my first note here to my second note and delete it. Do it again. Move my first note to my second note and delete it. Do it again. Move my first note to my second note and delete it. Do it again. First note to my second note and delete it. Do it again. First note to my second note and delete it. Do it again. Oh no, I did it wrong. Do it again. First note to my second note, right? First note to the second note and delete it. Do it again. First note to the second note and delete it. Do it again. First note and the second note. I don't even remember what the wording was for that, but first note to the second note and delete it. Do it again. That's what it was. I'm sorry. That's it. I probably shouldn't have did that, but I enjoyed that quite a bit. Okay, so that leaves you with equal spaced notes there. So I don't know if I'll even leave that in, but that's how you do that. Going into this part right here, after all the notes repeat and it kind of like sounds like the beat just malfunctioned a little bit, the same pattern is used, and then I use that same double stutter, and I'm just kind of going down on the pitch and changing the notes a little bit. And then we go in and do the same thing as the beginning. And this second note repeating section is just pitched up, and I kill it a little earlier on this one because this one the switch happens after the snare. This one, the little triplet leads into the snare. So, but yeah, that's going to be it for this one, y'all. I hope you learned something. I am going to do a separate tutorial, and I'll probably put that at the end screen with all the other backing elements in here that sound like this. But we'll save that for that tutorial. Yeah, so hope you learned something, and leave a comment, subscribe, do the stuff that helps the channel grow. I would highly appreciate that. And yeah, see ya.